Maybe you're still in your post-Christmas holiday buzz, but here we go. Another episode of the RR Show with me, Vince, and another one where we have a lot of fun r/TIFU stories. Let's get into it right now. Our first story comes from r/TIFU, of course, posted by user Disease. TIFU by breaking my dad's nose. So a recent post made me think of this, and I figured I'd share since someone might get a chuckle out of this. And depending on the viewpoint, one could argue it wasn't me who did the TIFU, but my dad, oh well. This was roughly 25 years ago. I was about 10 or 11 at the time. We, meaning me and my parents as well as my grandparents, went on vacation in Moravia. One day, we went out to eat at a restaurant on foot. On the way there, we had already seen a big graveyard that was basically blocking the straight path to the restaurant, and we went around it. On the way back, it was already late and dark outside. My dad and I took a shortcut through the graveyard since we figured it would be quicker. My mom and grandparents wanted to take the longer route since they deemed the graveyard too spooky at night. So my dad and I are walking through the dark graveyard at night. Hey, wouldn't it be fun if we played a prank on the others and scared them by jumping out from somewhere? I asked my dad. He agreed. Sure, let's do it. So as we hit the exit of the graveyard, we hid in some bushes, and I was eagerly awaiting the rest of the family to show up. Little did I know, my dad was planning his own shenanigans. As I was hidden behind a bush, watching the sidewalk in anticipation, my dad suddenly placed a hand on my shoulder and did a zombie-like moan after being really quiet for a bit. I did not expect that, and out of reflex, I ducked down and then kind of jerked my head backwards. One thing to know that at that age, I was roughly the same height as my dad. I grew up to be quite a bit taller than him. My head went forward and backwards and absolutely smashed into his face, and I broke his nose. I basically gave him a reverse headbutt. Just as this happened, the rest of the family also rounded the corner and basically just saw me smash my dad's nose in. We took him to a hospital, his nose got taken care of, and on a positive note, his nose was crooked before this incident, and after they said it, it actually turned out straight. While he was in the hospital, he also quit smoking. So, I guess I did him a solid by breaking his nose. Our second story, of course, comes again from r/TIFU, posted by user StarryRosePetals42. TIFU by giving myself frostbite. I and my little cousin spent our birthdays together this year because we don't see each other often. She was ecstatic because she's a very loving little girl, and I am one of her favorite people. I was struggling to think of things to do with her because I don't know her too well and don't know what kids these days are into. Her mom suggested this attraction called Wonderworks, an interactive museum in Myrtle Beach. I had never been, but she had, so I let her show me what was fun. We got there late, so there wasn't much to do in a 2-hour span, especially as soon as we got in there, she took off to her favorite parts. We spent a lot of time at this station with huge bubble wands, waving them like ballerinas, and covering each other in bubble tunnels. It was getting close to closing, so we start heading back, and we see this mini attraction that simulates how cold water was during the Titanic. She stuck her hand in and immediately retracted. Dramatic, I thought. I decided to be a show-off and leave my hand in that 28-degree 2 Celsius water for 25 seconds. There was a timer on the screen to see how long you could last. Cousin was impressed. Goal achieved. And we finished our night, and I took her home. Fast forward a day or two and I realize my right hand is now sensitive to even a light touch. Weird. I go to work and proceed like normal, but every time I put a glove on, I'm a service worker, or brush it against anything, there's still a light sting. I was confused and it felt dry to the touch, so I figured all I need is some lotion. Wrong. I'm not even kidding when I say my hand was on fire. Ironic, I know. It stung so bad for so long, I almost had my dad take me to the ER because I couldn't for the life of me think of what was wrong. The pain faded within 15 minutes, but man, fast forward to an entire week of my knuckles, they're still Sahara, but now they're chapped and have tiny cuts. What's happening? I bring it up to my coworker who worked at a pharmacy, and after describing what my hand was feeling like and my symptoms, she asked if I had been somewhere cold. I told her no. But only then did I remember what I did with my cousin, and I brought that up to her. She asked me how cold the water was. I told her it was to simulate the Titanic, so about 28 degrees. You gave yourself frostnip, moron. Oh. I have never had frostnip before, and living in South Carolina, you would think that'd be pretty easy to avoid. Our third story, another one again from r/TIFU, posted by user Used My Penis. TIFU by allowing my girlfriend to drive my car. I allowed my girlfriend to drive my car yesterday. She recently got her driver's license and she really wanted to drive. I was reluctant to give her my car keys because I've never actually seen her drive before, but I did that thing where I was like, what's the worst that could happen? As soon as my girlfriend got behind the wheel of my car, she prayed. Literally. Like, eyes closed and talking to an invisible force. It was a bit ominous since my girlfriend never prayed in my presence before, but I said nothing. I just low-key made sure my seatbelt was fastened and secure. Cue to my girlfriend driving. She was honking at a hearse that was driving in front of us. She eventually managed to switch lanes and pass the hearse, but she didn't drive away quietly. She rolled down her window and yelled at the driver. I can't remember what she said exactly, but it was something along the lines of, just because you drive dead people doesn't mean you have to drive like a dead person. Next was parallel parking, which did nothing to diffuse her road rage. For the record, there was no need to squeeze my car between the two cars that were there because there was more than enough parking space everywhere else. But my girlfriend wanted to prove that she could parallel park. If parallel parking was a boss fight, then my girlfriend would have died enough times for the game to be like, switch to easy mode, bro. My girlfriend struggled to get the angle right and repeatedly moved in and out of the parking space, only to end up making the same mistake again and again. I had to bite my tongue because every time I opened my mouth to give her directions, she'd look at me like I was the hearse guy. My girlfriend accepted defeat after several attempts and proceeded to park somewhere else. And by somewhere else, I mean another solar system, because she got flustered and decided to park as far as from our destination as possible. I never heard the end of it for the rest of the evening. My car was too big, the parking space was too small, the pressure was too much, etc. When it was time for us to leave, I said I didn't mind driving, which seemed to offend my girlfriend because she was like, "Excuse me?" I chose peace and shut up. Little did I know that less than 10 minutes later, my girlfriend would take her eyes off the road for a split second and ended up driving into another car. Thankfully, no one was hurt. I'm currently without a car because it's gonna take some time to repair the damage. I'm also without a girlfriend because I broke up with her this morning when she attempted to gaslight me. She made me feel like I imagined her flirting with the other driver in my face. She was clearly trying to manipulate the situation since it was obvious that she was to blame for the accident. I'm glad no one died. but I'm over the moon that my relationship did. My car unexpectedly brought out the worst in my now ex-girlfriend. Our final story once again comes from r/TIFU, posted by user UpstairsCookie4823. TIFU by throwing up on my senior citizen French teacher during a church service. I've always loved yogurt, ever since that I was really young. My favorite kind of yogurt has always been strawberry yogurt. I love strawberry yogurt. I have it almost every morning. Anyway, it was a Sunday night and I had gone home after a basketball game. I was hungry, I dug around the fridge for a bit and found an unopened tub of strawberry yogurt in the back. I thought that was a little strange. I usually eat it all pretty quickly. I was about 3/4 through my yogurt when I noticed that it was expired by a few days. I had never been a picky eater and it tasted fine, so I finished the tub and threw it out. I felt a bit unsteady the next morning, but I had a math test, so I decided to go to school. This was a Monday, so after our first couple periods, we had a chapel service, as my school at the time was Anglican. The whole school, about 900 people, was in our chapel. About halfway through, I suddenly started feeling extremely sick. It was taking all the willpower I had not to throw up on the people in front of me. I turned stone gray, and people around me were asking me if I was okay. You aren't allowed to leave in the middle of service, so my only option was to tough it out. After a few minutes, I cracked. I threw up a little on the ground in front of me, and I could feel more coming. I knew I had to get outside. I couldn't throw up in front of everyone, so I stood up and was booking it down the aisle, when all of a sudden, my very elderly, very kind French teacher stepped out in front of me. For what reason, I'm not sure. I had to stop suddenly to avoid hitting her, and then it all just came out. I projectile vomited bright pink strawberry yogurt all over her. Gasps of shock and horror were heard all around me. She just stood there. I kept running. I couldn't look back. I ran home as I live very close, basically across the street, and I went straight to the bathroom. Unfortunately, the school reported me absent without permission, and I got suspended for a day. Other than that, they made me do a counseling session with the teacher I threw up on after she got back from a day's break, and people never really got over it. I'm pretty sure there's a video somewhere. So thanks for being with us. The RR Show is a production of Evergreen Podcasts and Wessler Media. Now, if you'd be so kind, please follow or subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra nice, you might as well leave a 5-star review. But for more, visit the website, rrshow.com. That is rrshow.com. I'm your host, Vince. Thank you to my producer, Kevin, and we'll see you next time here on The RR Show.